I'm an addict. My name is Roseanne. Thanks, JoJo, for asking me to share tonight, and to the home group members or the powers that be that brought me here tonight. And, I was thinking about speaking tonight, and all of a sudden my mind just was blank. And I thought, oh, that's a good thing. Be interesting to see what higher power, shares. Um, but anyway, it is an honor and it's a privilege to be here and to share my message. And could because I can't see faces on the screen that well, but if there are any newcomers, please don't be shy. Just wave so I know who you are, because that's who I'm here for. So it's really important. Any newcomer, please. Okay, I guess I can go home then. Anyway, all right. I'm sure there's somebody new here, but so yeah, I'm empty, but I I'm just going to start, I guess, at the beginning, and we'll see where we go from there. I have learned a lot of things in Narcotics Anonymous. I've experienced so much. I've been given so many blessings, so many gifts, and when I tell my story, the things that I share are not things that I knew as I was going through them. As I was working the steps, different things were happening. When I showed up here, different things were happening. And then when I reflect back in retrospect, I see what was happening at the time and what I got from it. Although my understanding then is so different than it is now. But I thought earlier that all my life, I just wanted to belong. That's it. I didn't really want a whole lot. I just wanted to belong. And I wanted to know what my purpose was. I knew I had to have some kind of a purpose. So I'm going to share about what my perspective is now since I've come into recovery. And my clean date is 10/21/81. I have 39 years clean, and my birthday, no, but I am going to share. I'm going to be 82 years old in August. And I'm really excited about that because I didn't think I'd live to be 25, and neither did a lot of people, So I'm excited about both of those things. But when I was born, I really believe, looking back, that I was born a beautiful spirit. I believe that I was perfect when I was born. And as I grew up, I never felt really like a part of, but it was okay. I was in my own magic world. I fantasized a lot, and I wanted to be a movie star mother when I got older, and I really thought that was going to happen. But I remember going through life, and I was a really happy kid. I was really happy. I was happy in school. I was happy in the neighborhood, and I remember my spirit was just beautiful. And I believed, there was a God, and it was good, and everything was good, and people were good. And the spirit was beautiful. It was just a glow. And one day I was about 11 or 12 years old. I was coming home from school, and I was, jumping up the street. I had stopped at the little grocery store. I bought some suckers. I'm passing them out to the kids in the neighborhood. And I'm just really excited. And I walk in the door, I walk in the house, and my mom's in the kitchen fixing dinner. And I said, "Hi, Mom, it's a great day." And I was all excited. And she turned around and she looked at me and she said, "What is wrong with you?" She said, "Something is wrong with you. You're not like my other children. What is wrong with you?" And I remember that moment, throughout all the writing that I've done and being here a number of years and stuff. I really remember that. I got in touch with that. And I believe that is when my spirit started to diminish. And I remember thinking, something's wrong with me. The spark was just gone. And and from that point on, I mean, some things happened. I got pregnant. I was hanging around this bar just to be a part of, and I was drinking. It was like no big deal. And I got pregnant. I was bopping around in the back seat of a car, more than bopping, and I got pregnant. And my mother never found out I was pregnant until I was 6.5 months pregnant. I had the baby premature a couple weeks later. The neighbors never found out. My mother never knew. I lived at home. She never knew. I mean, she didn't really pay that much attention. And we gave up the baby for adoption. My mother never asked who the father was, what I wanted, nothing. And I went to the hospital. I had the baby. I came home. My mother said, "We will never talk about this again." The baby was given up for adoption. And I remember the day I had her. My arms literally ached to hold her. I really wanted that baby. And so, I go on my merry way. No drugs, no drinking, maybe a little drinking, but and so in the process, I had gotten married to this normie, and I had a couple of children, and one day I ran into baby daddy, and I knew he was an addict, and I knew he dealt drugs, and I knew using was bad. Although I was really kind of naive. I was brought up in a town outside of Buffalo. It was like a country town. I couldn't wait to get out of there, and anyway, so I'm 18 years old. I pick up this guy Mondo and his partner, and they're walking, and so I picked them up. We went to this sleazy, scuzzy hotel, and I'm thinking, what am I doing here? And this good little Catholic girl, although I was wild, but I'm thinking, what am I doing here? So Mondo and his partner go in the bathroom, and they come out, and he asked me to stick out my arm. And I stuck out my arm, and I was 18. At 23, I was on my way to the penitentiary. At 25, I got out of the penitentiary. And from the age of, I was in New York. That's where I was in the penitentiary. And they paroled me to California. They didn't want to send me back to Buffalo because they knew my old man was there, and, the drug scene and everything. And so they paroled me to California where there's no drugs. So anyway, from the age of 25 to 42 years old, I did nothing but use, finding ways and means to get more. Anytime I was ever on the street or had a little bit, it was because I got busted. I was sent to jail. I cleaned up a little. I came out. I got a job. I worked at the job maybe 60, 90 days, whatever, sometimes long enough to get insurance so that I could go to rehab or hospital detox. And so anyway, the point I want to make is from the age of 25 to 42 years old, I used. And I used really heavy. I used by myself. I don't want to share my dope with anybody. And I just, I didn't party. I didn't hang out at bars. I used. I went to cop, and then I went home. And I got busted a lot. Like I said, I went to the penitentiary. My last prayer before I came in this time was, please help me to get busted. I was so lost and suffering so much. And I knew if I got busted, I'd have three squares. I knew I'd have a roof over my head, and I'd be safe. Because where my addiction took me, and of course, in the meantime, I had 2 children. I divorced from my husband. I lost my kids. I'll tell you a little bit when I talk about my 4th step about my kids. But so I ended up towards just before I got here this time, and I had been in and out of the rooms. My first NA meeting was in the 70s, late 70s. It was Saturday Night Live in Venice, California. The meeting's still happening, and I got bused there. I was at some rehab or something. I don't even know, and I just I don't know what was going on. No, I don't know anything about any format. Nothing. I looked at all the dudes. I thought they were fine. Some of them had cars, and I hadn't been with anybody with a car for a long time, and I'll tell you, you men really clean up, and there were some fine men, and I'll tell you a cute story. I couldn't understand why they were talking about going for coffee, and nobody was asking me to go for coffee, and I couldn't understand why. And all these women were coming over to me, and they were being nice and giving me their phone numbers, and I'm like, what? I don't want your phone number. And so anyway, I went home that night to rehab or wherever I went. And I thought about it, and I thought, why did those guys? Because I knew I was looking fine, and I was thinking, why did those guys ask me to go out? Go out for coffee. And I thought, I got it. They think I'm gay. That's why they were sending all those women over to me. And, we'll tell ourselves anything to make us feel better. And I really thought that, and there's nothing wrong with being gay, but I wasn't. I mean, I don't know, maybe I had some tendencies during my usage, but anyway, I'm not. So anyway, so that was the first time I went to a meeting. Didn't hear anything. I wasn't listening. I wasn't ready. I had so many more years to go from there. And so I ended up, I want to tell you where I ended up. And my dear, wonderful friend Chuck is here tonight. And he tells some of my stories. And I love when he says it because it really brings me back. And I never, ever want to forget where I come from for a few reasons. One is because I never want to go back. I always want to remember the pain and the devastation. And I want to remember it because it reminds me of all the blessings and the gifts and the beauty that I have today as a result of being in Narcotics Anonymous. So I never want to forget. And so I ended up in Watts. I think some of you know where Watts is or what a Watts is, and some may not. And I remember somebody coming up to me after meeting. They said, "What's a Watts?" And I said, "Well, I said, have you ever watched Out of Compton?" And they said, "Yeah, yeah." And I said, "Well, it's 10 times worse." But I want to tell a couple of stories, and usually I don't like really get into it, but anyway, so I ended up in Watts. I went looking for this dude. He was a musician. He was a drummer, and I thought he was really cool. I saw him at some place and some dope house, and I thought he was fine. And he lived in Watts, and I was going to catch up with him. He was a musician, and he was really cool, and he was so cool. That when he would play his drums, he had his sticks. He always had his sticks, but he would play on a phone book because he didn't have drums anymore. I mean, he was an addict. So anyway, so I thought I wanted to be with Chuck. I thought he was fine. He played with Hampton Hawes. I know some of you don't know who Hampton Hawes was, but he was like a really jazz musician, and Chuck played with him, and I thought it was so cool. And anyway, wow, long time since I shared this. So anyway, so I hitchhike. I'm paroled to California. I get out of the penitentiary. I get paroled to California. I go to my parole officer's office for a meeting, and I meet this girl that's an addict, and all bets were off. That was it. I was off and running, and so, but I wanted me some Chuck. So I'm in LA, he's in Watts, and so I'm hitchhiking and to go to Watts to Mama's house because he lived with his mother. Oh my God. Anyway, so and poor Mama, we lived with her for 6 years. Anyway, so I hitchhike out to Watts. I ended up living there for 6 years. I was with Chuck 4.5 years. And he threw me out the window one time. We were on one story, thank God. And he threw me out the bedroom window, told me not to come back. And I was so desperate. I remember going back that night, it was raining, and I knocked on the window and I said, "Please let me come back." Chuck used to beat me up almost daily for 4.5 years, and I wanted to go back. And so I lived on the streets of Watts for a year and a half. And I just, I was living to use and using to live. There were some days that I was on the corner at the liquor store with the fellas, and they had the big barrel, and fire was in there, and we'd be sitting around, and they'd be passing around a short dog in a paper bag, and I'd be right there with the guys. And Chuck tells this story. I'll tell you, when I was in Watts, I got beat up on a daily basis, and I got raped, and I used whatever I could get, anything to take the misery away. And I struggled, and and one time there was this preacher guy, and he preacher man, and he stopped me one day and he said, I see you walking up and down the streets. And he said, I feel really sorry for you. And he said, I feel bad, but I can't take you home. He said, because I'm a preacher and my congregation, it wouldn't, fly. And so he said, but I have a porch steps and I have a little place underneath the porch. And he said, if you want, I'll bring you home with me and I can bring you some food and I'll bring you a blanket. And so I'm thinking, oh, yes, yes, I'll be safe. And he took me home. And I had forgotten that. That's why I like to share it because I had forgotten it. I never remembered it till I had 6 years clean. And my sister, who was my best friend in the whole world, that's how I ended up in Utah to be with her. She had told me this story. She said, do you remember when I came looking for you in Watts and I stopped at Mama's and she told me that, you were in this neighborhood and I went and I found you. And I said, where? And she started to tell me. And as she started to tell me, I started to remember and I wanted to throw up. I thought, oh my God, I was in so much pain then. And I said to her, I said, Tony, what did I look like? And she said, well, you had a half a mouth full of teeth. And she said, your hair was dirty and matted to your face and you were skinny. And she said, but you had a beautiful smile. And you said, sis, don't worry about me. I'm going to get clean. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to, because that's what I always told her. She was the only one that kept that connection going as far as my family goes. So anyway, yeah. And, well, I don't want to get stuck there. I'm starting to get stuck with those stories. So anyway, so I get to recovery this time, been in and out of rehab so many times, in and out of jail. So I get here, I'm 42 years old, and I had just been in a 28-day program. I had been on the streets, and I had been in this care unit before, and these people heard I was on the street and I was a lost soul, and they said she could come, we'll detox her. She, and I didn't have any money, of course. I mean, I had nothing. And so anyway, so they had suggested that I go to a program, and I thought, a program, I know about all that stuff. What am I going to go to program for? And then I thought, well, it's not a bad idea. Let me just go clean up and then I'll leave, I'll escape, or they'll kick me out, or, it was the same pattern. I got stuck in a pattern, and I think a lot of people get stuck. We come in, we slap a Band-Aid on, and then we go back out. I wasn't willing to do any work. I didn't know about any work yet. I never stayed long enough. And so anyway, I come in this time. I come in via a recovery house long term. I was there a year and a half. I was really sick. And anyway, so my higher power brought me there. And how things started to change for me is I immediately got a sponsor. I have to check the time. I immediately got a sponsor, and I got a sponsor because you had to get a sponsor, get kicked out. So I got a sponsor. She was top notch in NA. I would hear her every meeting they would take us to. She'd be talking and saying how it works. And she was a GSR and she was important. And I thought, oh, I need to ask her to sponsor me, because if anybody's going to help me, it's going to be her. And newcomers, I want to tell you something. That what started to happen is recovery. When I stopped using, recovery started for me. And I had no idea. I thought, oh, everybody's happy. I'm not happy. I don't have anything. I had the clothes on my back. And the clothes on my back, well, I'll tell you that in a story. But I had nothing when I got to that rehab. Again, I had nothing other times too, so it wasn't a big deal. But I had nothing. But I was excited because they would let me go first in the donation line because I had nothing. So I'd go first. And I mean, that's what my life existed of. I was happy because I was first in line in the donation thing. Oh my God. 42 years old. I had abscess sores still. They were healing on my legs. And I got this wonderful woman. Her name was Jody. And she passed away 3 years ago. Jody spoon-fed me this program. I owe my life to Narcotics Anonymous and to Jody. She believed in me when I thought it's over. I was really just, I didn't know, the next time I thought I'm going to die or, whatever. I just, I was such a loser. And I didn't know till later that on page 16 in the basic text, we didn't even have the basic text when I got here, but on page 16 at the top in our basic text, it talks about we were not hopelessly bad, but we were critically ill. And see, for a long time, I thought I was hopelessly bad, that I didn't deserve this. And, I talked about that spirit. So this is the connection. So when I got here, I still had the spirit in me, but it was really tiny, tiny, just a little tiny bit of a flame left, but enough flame to keep me going. And so Jody got me into the steps. I'm going to share a little bit about the steps. And I was really praying that there'd be like 5, 10 newcomers here, because I'm still gonna lay it out there, because somebody here is new. I know God didn't bring me this far without a newcomer, but because I love newcomers anyway. So Jody got me into the steps, and I said a while ago that my feelings about how I got here and what it was like when I got here is so much different today, looking back, than what was happening for me, than what I perceived at the time. And I remember this guy saying to me, he said, "Roseanne, do you know what spirituality is?" And I'm thinking, oh no, I'm thinking, what is spirituality? He was the guy that interviewed me at this rehab, and I'm thinking, oh, I gotta have the answer. And I said, well, I was born Catholic and I believe in Jesus on the cross, went on this whole thing, hadn't been in church in years. And since I was a little girl, he said, "Roseanne, stop. He said spirituality, he talked about Narcotics Anonymous being a spiritual program. He said spirituality is really simple. It's living another way. It's being good and kind instead of not so good and not so kind. It's being a giving person instead of a taker." And I thought, wow, that's spirituality. I can do that. He said it's another way of life. And to me today, many years later, that is what spirituality is to me. It's living another way. And our program, and we say it all the time, and it's in our literature, is a spiritual program. That is why I came here. That is why my higher power brought me here, because my spirit, that beautiful spirit I had when I was a little girl, something happened and it was dying. And so this beautiful program of Narcotics Anonymous started to feed my spirit. I had the goosebumps, guys. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling it. And my spirit started to grow, and it started to grow. And it was growing when I didn't even realize it was growing. So I get this sponsor and I say to her, Jody, we can do the first step. I'm ready you can give me the assignment. And she said, really? Roseanne, I'm the sponsor, you're the sponsee. I will give you an assignment when it's necessary. But right now, and newcomers, I'm saying this to you, right now, she said to me, your first step is you don't use no matter what the rest of your life, day at a time, just for today. So that was my first step. The second step, oh, my girl, Rosemary, and she's here, my sponsee, loves this story. So this is for you, Ro. So the second step, I said, Jody, we can jump over this. I'm not insane. She said, didn't you tell me you were in an institution one time, an asylum? I said, yes, but I wasn't in a padded cell. So she said, Roseanne, I want you to go home. I want you to pick up the pen and I want you to write. And I want you to write something crazy that happened. So I said, okay, I can do that. She said, pick up the pen, say your prayer, to be thorough and honest, and start writing. So this is what I took back to Jody. I said, yeah, I think maybe I was a little crazy. This is what I wrote. I wrote that I was walking the streets of Watts. It was about 6:00 in the morning, and the police pulled up, and I'm walking or standing on the corner, whatever. Worked that night. I worked at night. Anyway, so the cop says, get in the back seat of my car. And I said, excuse me, officer, what is your probable cause? Now, I just told you guys I was living on the street, so you can imagine what I look like. But this is the outfit that I had on. I worked the night before. and I got a salary of $20. That was a good night for me, guys. So I went to Woolworths. Woolworths was a five and dime store. So I bought this outfit, went to this gas station, threw the clothes away I had, and put this outfit on. And this is the outfit I had on. I had a pair of red hot pants. They were hot and they were really short. And I had a red top that was coordinated. I had a red top, long sleeve, and I had a pair of fishnet stockings on. And this was the kicker. I had a pair of black plastic tie-up boots, and that's the outfit I had on. And I'm a white girl in Watts, and it's a dark, beautiful village city, And I just, was shining, like the shining star. And he told me, "Get your ass in the back seat of my car." So anyway, they took me down to the station. Whatever, they cut me loose, but that was my second step. I said to Jody, "Yeah, maybe I was a little crazy," and then we got to the third step, and Jody had me write a prayer to my higher power, and we weren't into the third step and all that then, and I wrote a beautiful, beautiful letter. Now that's how I saw it then. That's what was happening then. How I see it today, looking back, that when I got here with that spirit that was dying, in the first step, I needed to really internalize how sick I was, that I really had a sickness, not bad, but I was really sick. So there's this beautiful program. So I'm really sick, so I need help. And the second step, looking back and how it came to fruition for me, was that I don't have to do this alone, that there's a power greater than me that's going to help me, and it's going to help me with my steps. And the third, looking back now compared to then, I knew none of this then. I internalized that this power is going to help walk me through the rest of the steps. And that was my foundation. Now, I didn't understand all that I understand now, but I just followed her direction. I turned my will and my life over to Jody's care. And I got into my fourth step, and how I did it was an autobiography. Jody said, "I want you to pick up the pen, say your prayer, write as far back as you can remember." And I wrote as far back as I could remember. I told all my secrets. I told everything that I did, and I did not think this was going to work. It was extremely painful. But I told about the time I was at my mother's and I was using really heavy, and I'm nodding out. My kids are with me, and my old man Mondo is in the car outside. We're in New York. He's getting ready to go to California. He's going to kick on the road, right? He's got a bunch of dope with him, and I'm there, and I know he's outside, and I'm there at my mom's, and my kids are there. My son Russell, my beautiful, wonderful son Russell, was 3 years old, and my beautiful daughter Shelly was 2. And I says, "Mom, I have to go, but I'll be back later." And my kids were crying, and they were hanging out to me, and what I was really leaving for was some dope. Mondo had dope. I wasn't leaving to be with him. It was far beyond that now. I was leaving because I knew he had some dope. So, when I got here, I used to tell the story that I left my children with my mother and all that stuff, and they kept them for me. And no, I abandoned my children for some dope. And I know it sounds cruel and hard, and it is cruel and hard, but that's where my disease took me. That's how sick I was. And I say to a lot of women, I'm your yet, so you don't have to go that route. That's how sick I was. And I have done so much work, do I feel bad about it? Absolutely. Absolutely. Do I wish it wouldn't have happened? Absolutely. Did my kids suffer from it? Absolutely. But you know what? It was what it was, and I had to face it, or I would have died. I would have continued. And thank God for our program and our steps, because it gives me steps and more steps to work. And that spirit grows, that beautiful spirit grows, and I start amending all those things that I did. And so people used to say to me, "God's in the steps, higher powers in the steps," and I used to think, what step? I wanted them to tell me so I could hurry and get to it. And I wouldn't ask them. I was too cool. And so I took my inventory to my sponsor, and I shared it with her. I shared my fifth step, and um, it was extremely painful. And as I was writing, I kept getting in touch with some pain. And it was about my son, Russell. Because when my son was 18, he committed suicide. And I had never gotten him back again. I used to go after California. I would go and try to get them, but I'd be loaded. And, so I never got my kids back again. And I never saw my son again ever since that day when I left him when he was 3 years old. And so I used to come to the point of writing about that, and I couldn't. It just choked me. And my sponsor said, Roseanne, it's okay. You can jump over that. We'll get to that. So I trusted her. And but I remember I did my inventory. I went to a meeting afterwards. My sponsor took me to a meeting. There was an old timer there that many of you know or have heard about, and his name was Pepe. And Pepe was a spiritual giant. And I went to this meeting, and Pepe was outside, and his sons were there in their wheelchairs. And he said, "Hi, Roseanne." I thought, "Oh my God, he knows my name." And I told him, Pepe, I did my fifth step. He said, "Oh, girl, good, you arrived." And I remember feeling so special. But the glow was gone. There was no burning bush. I didn't feel I was walking on air, nothing. So I thought maybe I left something out, did something wrong. And a month later, I was in a meeting. It was an 11-step meeting, and everybody was talking about a higher power. And I was on a listening assignment. I was on one for about 2.5 years. And so I'm listening to everybody. And all of a sudden, in that room, a feeling came over me. And I knew that that was my higher power. And I've never questioned my higher power since. And sometimes I feel further, but that's because I've got stuff going on inside. I need to clean it up. But I believe what happened for me is that I needed to get all that stuff out, all that stuff. And once I got it out, the understanding was deep within me, and I got in touch with that. And I can tell you that, I said that I told you about, I needed to know that I was really sick. I needed to understand that. And that's what I think like the fourth and fifth step is all about, just cleaning out all that stuff. And then I get to the sixth step. And I have to look at how in each step I have to look at how my illness, the disease of addiction affected me, my life, and people around me. And that's to me what the steps are all about. It's all just making up and atoning for that and really seeing how sick I was and how it affected me and what I can do about it. So the sixth step isn't that scary for me. I know it's ugly, and I know that I have character defects. I'm always going to have them for two reasons. One, I'm a human being. I'm always going to make mistakes. There's always going to be stuff happen. And two, I have the disease of addiction that's going nowhere. So I'm always going to be working on the sixth step. But the gift is that that's where I get to my spiritual principles, because every character defect I have has a spiritual principle. And that's where I started learning about spiritual principles in step 6 and 7. And that's when I started to be on the spiritual path. My feet were on the path then, the journey, where I started to become a better human being, where I started to become kind, where I started to be that beautiful little girl that I was born, that spirit, that started to happen. And hey, you guys, the 12th step is a spiritual awakening. So my spirit awoken in the 12th step. And as I go, my 11th step is my favorite step. That's where I show up for my higher power, and we chat and I listen and I get right inside. I'm intuitive. That's the gift I've gotten from sitting with my higher power. I remember when Jody got me in 11th step, she said, "I want you to sit for 20 minutes. I said, 20 minutes? I can't, 20 minutes? She said, yes. And then she had me tell her, if I saw a cute guy at the meeting, what would I do? And I told her, I wear perfume, and I'd wear a sexy outfit, and I'd keep passing, going up for coffee, and, till this guy hit on me. And she said, you would do all of that because you saw a guy at a meeting that, was cool or foxy or whatever. She said, but you can't spend 20 minutes with a higher power. So she brought it right into perspective for me. I can tell you now that I will sit in the morning for 2.5 hours, and I love it. I usually don't do a whole lot until noon. and then I usually go to a meeting at noon. But I sit with my higher power, and I'll tell you, it is fabulous. Was it in the beginning? It took a while. It takes practice, practice, practice. But this is what happens. A sponsee of mine called one day. She said, "Oh, I've been crying all day." She said, "I don't know why. I've just been crying. I'm so depressed." And I said to her, "Honey, not to worry. That is God sprinkling water on you to help you grow." And she said, "Well, what did you say?" I had to repeat it because to me it was so beautiful. And I know that came from a higher power because I'm not, I mean, anything that I say that's beautiful and loving and caring comes from a power greater than myself. And there's so much more I could talk about. I want to tell one story. A couple of stories maybe. I want to tell one story that when I had a year clean, I was getting ready to go to a meeting, a Sunday meeting, and I got a phone call from my sister in New York. Now, up to that point, I had got my year clean, and I thought, wow, maybe I could stay clean. I got a year, and everybody was clapping, and I was a white key wonder at that time, or Q tag wonder, and anyway, so everything started to die down, and now it's like December, and I got clean in October, and I thought, oh, and I said a prayer, and I said, please, higher power, let something wonderful happen. Now, the old timers used to say, be careful what you pray for. So I definitely was going to be careful. And because by now I was following everybody's direction because I was like in recovery. And, but in my heart, I wanted an old man. I really wanted to share my life with the man. I've always wanted to share my life with the man. I just wanted a relationship and kids, but I didn't ask for it, or a new car. I thought, God, if I had a new car, it'd be me and him. And anyway, but I just said, please let something happen to me so I can feel special. And 2 weeks before Christmas, my sister from New York called me and she said, I want you to sit down. You received a letter at our brother's home in New York. I was in California. And she read me the letter and she said, I'm taking the first step at finding you. And I need to know that you're out there somewhere. And you won't know me by name, but maybe you remember September 10th, 1956. And it was signed Love Annette Rose. It was from the daughter I gave up for adoption. She found me 27 years later. No internet, no nothing, no Facebook at the time. She found me 27 years later. And I did nothing to make that happen, but put one foot in front of the other. And my sister said, oh my God, this is a God's omen. How do you feel? And I felt, this is how I felt. I felt that my higher power said to me, Roseanne, I love you. I've always loved you. There's a master plan and it's perfect. That's all you have to do is stay clean and help another addict, and I'll do the rest. And that was my message then. And that was something I was looking for all my life. I just wanted to know my purpose. I just wanted to know, why am I here? What is my purpose? And I found out my purpose that day. And it's great. It's nothing. I don't have to get any kind of a job or any kind of I don't have to worry about anything. And my life is great. I came out to be with my sister, and because she was sick, so I left Florida, came out here, and came out to Utah. And there were 3 meetings a week. Everybody was in ANDA pretty much, and I thought, oh no, but I showed up. I kept showing up. My sponsor said, just watch your delivery, because I could be pretty direct. But anyway. And I just shared. People were ready here to hear whatever, and it's been a beautiful experience. I needed Utah as much as they needed me because my sister did pass away. But what I learned then was, and I'll close with this. What I learned then is that our literature says a grateful addict will never use, and I used to think, oh, I better leave right now because I wasn't grateful when I got here. I'm standing in a line, and anyway, whatever. So, and then I started getting grateful because I got a job and I got a little apartment and I had some money in the bank, and so I became grateful, but I never really internalized what a grateful addict will never use meant until my sister was dying. And I was with her. I moved into her house, and she had a husband and kids, but I moved into her house. We moved in the bedroom together. I stayed with her. I never had sleep deprivation. I was with her 24/7, and I would massage her and you know, and play music and speaker tapes and just everything. My sister believed in me, always believed in me, and I remember planning on going to Vegas. I was going to get, you know, some dope after she passed, and I was going to write a letter to all my friends. And I knew all of you would understand because you knew how much I loved her, and I just didn't want to live without her. And and as I was with her, I started to realize that I was chosen to be with her. She wanted me to be with her at the end. And I was here. I left Florida and came here for that reason. And I was there with her. And she had a husband and kids, but she wanted me to be there. And higher power wanted me to be there with her. And it was a beautiful transition. I was there holding her hand. And, you know, she'd been breathing really hard and raspy and that. And all of a sudden, the room, my eyes were closed. I was holding her hand, and the room was silent. And I knew that she was gone physically. But she's with me because she never went anywhere, just her body's gone. But anyway, I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you guys so much. You know, I'm losing vision. Many of you know I was at the convention. I'm telling everybody, I can't see your face. Who are you? And because I can't see faces. But you know what? I was so comfortable at the convention. I sat in one chair probably all day Saturday and Sunday. People came up to me, hugging me, and I would say, who are you? I can't see your face. And I felt so comfortable doing it. And there are people in this room, Jerry, for one, that knows I have not always been that comfortable telling people that I can't see them because they're like, what is she talking? You know, but it's okay. You know, I'm losing vision. I lost a lot, you know, I may be blind in a year or two, whatever, but there's gratitude in that too. I can still see somewhat. I can still get around. I have wonderful friends that help me. And so, yeah, we need to find the gratitude. You know, there's a lot of pain going on. There's reentry BS going on. I mean, I re-entered society now after COVID, and I'm feeling insecure. I'm feeling I'm in people's way. I'm thinking, what the hell? And I talked to my sponsor, and I have re-entryism. You know, it's just like adjusting again. But anyway, thank you all for listening. I know I'm going over. Jojo, thank you for not interrupting me. And I love you guys so much. I hope you got something out of, well, you had to get something out of God's sharing. So thank you.
Yay!
Love you.
Love you,
Roseanne.
Thank you.
Roseanne.
Love you so much.
Love
Thank
you.
you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.